Good morning. I herewith open this public meeting of the Island Council of St. Eustatius for today, Thursday, November 20th. I welcome those who are present in the hall, as well as the general public listening by way of radio and internet waves. I invite us all to please stand in respect for the local anthem, the Golden Rock Song. You may be seated. Agenda point 2 regards announcements. Council Lady Mercedes Lopes-Spanner is absent from today's meeting with notice. Commissioner Ruben Merkman is also absent with notice, as he is attending the Vier London Overleg where healthcare is on the agenda. I now look to the members of the Island Council if there are any other announcements. There are no announcements from the members of the Island Council at this time. We move into the setting of the agenda. I will first read the agenda as prepared, and then I will see further how we move forward on the agenda. Agenda 1 is opening, 2, announcements, 3, setting of agenda, point 4, ratification of list of incoming documents, 5, ratification of list of decisions and commitments regarding the October 16th meeting of the Island Council, 6, ordinance travel and accommodation expenses, Island Council, St. Eustatius 2025, 7, rules of order for the meetings and other proceedings of the Island Council of St. Eustatius 2025, 8, announcements, Executive Council and Island Governor in keeping with Articles 49 and 50 of the Rules of Order of the Island Council. 9, closing. I look to the members of the Island Council if we can proceed with the agenda as advertised. Councilman Van Putten.
Madam Speaker, members of the Island Council, the Commission and governments, others in the confine of this temporal legislative hall, and those listening by airwaves. I don't ever want to make it an agenda point because I did not consult with my colleagues in the faction. But we had a meeting this past Tuesday, Wednesday, one of those days, with our colleagues in Bonaire. and the question came up with regards to the stalemates where the revision of the FinBest and FOLBest is concerned. I remember that Eddie Van Maden, the Minister of State, when he visited recently prior to their national election, we basically said how we felt. We confirmed this in the motion of the Island Council. I know that Bonaire did something similar. By the time the Honorable Commissioner responsible for Constitutional Affairs was not present, and very disappointingly, her colleague said he was not aware with regards to what the position of the government was. The reason why I mentioned this, and I don't really think that I need to make it an agenda point, but I think there were deadlines where they wanted to forge ahead. And I know State Secretary Van Maden indicated that the Executive Council is a speaking partner. And whatever moving forward they were going to speak with the Executive Council, who in turn that's what informed the Island Council. Seeing the deadline would have passed, where the islands would have made their input. I see a lot of different things coming and it's a bit confusing. The Island Council was very clear and we stated that the position that the Dutch have on the table at this point in time, it is unacceptable. We control the majority in this Island Council. So against that backdrop, we stood in the gap and defended the people. Those on the other side voted against the motion, and that's their right. But I think it would be good still for the Commissioner to update this country and let us know where we are. Because when I look at the intention, they are actually emptying the authority and the powers of both the Executive and the Island Council. And I think that is very dangerous. If we need to go to court, we will do that. I have no problem with that. I would like to spar with them in court if needs be. But I think that it will be good that because a motion was passed, like I said, the Commissioner wasn't present, her colleague didn't have any information or anything to say. But I don't know if since that motion, if there was any contact between the Hague, the ministry, the minister, the state minister, and the Executive Council.
What I can confirm to you, sir, is that based on the motion of the Island Council, the Executive Council immediately issued a letter highlighting the points detail per detail in accordance to the wish of the Island Council. So that letter was the action, it was executed, and that letter was sent directly to The Hague within a day or two following the motion of the Island Council.
Well, it is good to know, Madam Speaker. Thanks for that. Because I work with the Dutch and I know how they operate. And they could say the council, they hear you, and then move ahead and do what they want to do. And that could create a constitutional crisis, because I don't believe in this day and age that people should, have things imposed on them. So I just wanted to have that clarity for the consumption of the public.
Definitely.
As to where we are at this point in time. And I will implore the Executive Council that even though you send a letter highlighting the motion, I also asked the General Secretary, because it was an omission that we didn't put the copies confirmed on the motion itself. But I did ask, and I understood that they were to send to the parliaments in Holland, the cabinet, the other three countries in their parliament, and the two Executive and Island Council.
That did take place, sir, and it's confirmed by the registrar.
But I would request the government, and specifically the Commissioner, to, no, I know that she's confirming.
Yeah, it's sent to the Island Council, but what Mr. Van Putten is speaking about is all the partners within the kingdom, yes. And the registrar has confirmed that took place immediately following
but
the meeting.
I would urge the Executive Council to become very proactive.
Definitely,
because
sir.
I think what they will do, I think that it might be a longer formation process than one expect. In that meeting, we had some specific recommendation, which I wouldn't reveal. We eventually have to share it with the Commission, and then she in turn would share it with the Executive Council. But I think we need to be vigilant, because it could end up going through without the approval. And once it's law, then it's a dead goat. Although the islands were very clear, but Station and Bonaire, stating very clear. I saw SABE also give their reaction, though that I know that Station and Bonaire basically is on the same line where this particular issue is concerned. So I would ask the Executive Council to get engaged to ensure that in the process of whatever they do, whether they would pass it before because the Parliament have started already, and so they're functioning. They're waiting on the government. So basically, if the Parliament feels that they want to handle it, they can handle it. Yeah. Because I have seen that happen over the years.
Once it's a topic that is continuing,
yes,
already in process, it can continue.
Thank you, Speaker.
So thank you, Councilman Van Putten. Does this mean we can proceed with the agenda as is? Yes. I thank you so much, sir. And so herewith, the agenda as published is confirmed. Ratification of list of incoming documents, that is agenda point 4. You have all received the proposed handling of the list of incoming documents, and if we can agree, we can ratify the handling of the list of incoming documents as proposed. I look to you, members of the Island Council, with regards to the ratification of the list of incoming documents. List of incoming documents are herewith ratified. Agenda point 5, ratification of the decision list of October 16th, 2025. Each member of the Island Council has received the list of the meeting of the Island Council that was held on October 16th. Are there any comments to the decision list? Mr. Van Putten?
I see this almost as an exercise in fertility. Because again, I spoke in the past, I'm not pointing fingers at nobody. But I also asked the Office of the General Secretary to ensure that we have a different way of communicating. Now, I am not going to get involved in the Executive Council of the decision because I think those things should be discussed in the Octagon before, so that when you go there, you go with the strong support, especially of your faction. But very often we get these decision lists and the media don't say anything. Like yesterday, I think the Honorable Commissioner sent a note, I think, the Khalifi, one of them, where they were talking about some agreement that was signed recently, and I think it is for perusal by the Office of the General Secretary. Well, you and I have a fundamental difference on that. You spoke about the law, and that is why I'm concerned about a lot of the laws that we have, because I say this all the time and people take it for a joke, but I'm dead serious. It's God and then the Island Council. The Island Council represents the people. It doesn't matter which side of the aisles. I have always said, even if the opposition asks for information, the government have a responsibility to provide that information. When the Island Council, whether it's the majority or minority, calls the government, pick up your marbles and go and hear what the Island Council would say. But I find it a bit strange that you are members of the Executive Council, which is the government and the two commissioners, then you have the Cabinet Secretary. But you also have a lot of other people and the respectful staff that end up with these documents in their hands. And so I find it a bit tricky, difficult to say the least, that the Island Council is being treated in this form. And so maybe we need to review the law, even at the domestic level. Of course, it can't supersede the laws that is there. But again, I'm saying the Island Council represents the people. And so the Island Council need to know what is going on. Because very often when we get these decision lists, it's a number. And then there's I don't even bother to read them, to be honest with you. I don't bother to read them. Because for me, and I'm very being honest, I said to you that I will avoid as much as possible any spat with you in public I will blaze you in private when I need to. You would do likewise. I don't have a problem with that. But I would try as much as possible to avoid the public charade because I don't think that it is healthy for the community. But I'm concerned. I'm very concerned because already the Dutch want to make the Island Council a rubber stamp. Civil servants in The Hague and the ministry have more power and more insight because whenever they ask for information, the information is sent to them. And we who directly is representing the people, chosen by the people, the information is being withheld. I'm not going to locally field office to read anything. I told my colleagues but I know they like to read, I read too, very late in the night. But I told them if they have the time and they really want to go, it's good for them to go because, of course, it's always good for the faction in general to have an opinion. But I see that exercise as one fertility, and I see it as a mockery. So you did promise, I think it was last year, that we would find a more creative way, to make the information available. Even the timing, I know the Secretariat was concerned, and I think in your three-home discussion, if he was to take up that, I think that we need to know more as an Island Council, because when the other members of the Island Council know, it avoids a lot of the misunderstanding. But then to tell us what the law said, because it's very contradictory. You have the law on transparent government, openbaar, hate van bestuur, and then you have a lot of different little gadgets in there to withhold certain information. And I must tell you that if my wife is sitting here as a member of the Executive Council, and I don't have the information, I won't blaze her, because I need information for the public, not necessarily for me, but I need it for the public. So I hope still that as we coming down to the end of the year, that your office, because you are responsible for making sure that these information reach to us, I hope that your office will come up with a creative way in which we can improve that situation. Because getting this document, it don't say anything to me.
Councilman Van Putten, your point is well taken. However, the agenda ratification decision list, it regards in particular the last Island Council meeting. But I hear you on the broader perspective. So with that, I would like to herewith ratify the decision list of the October 16th meeting of the Island Council. We are at agenda point 6, Island Ordinance Travel and Accommodation Expenses, Island Council, St. Eustatius, 2025. In accordance with Article 122 of the Volbes, the Island Council may arrange in an island ordinance the manner in which they travel. Currently, this was regulated in an island decree of 2016, implemented through the Executive Council. However, this regulation does not comply with the law. As such, the Island Council has deemed it significant to have such an ordinance created. The new ordinance therefore regulates the reimbursement of travel and accommodation expenses for members of the Island Council, the registrar, committees, and advisors working visits outside of the territory of St. Eustatius. The aim is to ensure transparency, efficiency, the legality during visits that contribute to the representation of the interests of the public entity and the effective representation of the island. This updated proposal was thoroughly reviewed and discussed in a closed-door session of the Central Committee. Following that internal deliberation, the ordinance has now been formally submitted to the Island Council for its final consideration and approval. Therefore, in accordance with principles of transparency and good governance, the formal decision must be made in a public setting of the Island Council. I look to the members of the Island Council if there's a need to deliberate. Members, I see signal from Putin, Mr. Schmidt, Mr. Simmons. Yeah? So the members of the Island Council would like to deliberate. I want to state that the order of speaking on the ordinance. Or you don't want to, no need for deliberation. Simmons? Yeah, travel ordinance here. Okay, so we have 2 in favor of deliberation and 1 not. So the decision is carried that it will be a point of discussion. And also the speaking order: 1, Councilman Clyde Van Putten; 2, Councilman Derek Simmons; 3, Councilman Glenville Schmidt. So I now open the floor, and you may speak, Councilman Clyde Van Putten.
Madam Speaker, I could have elected to have this as a harm of peace, but I looked to the agenda and I said it to my colleague yesterday, I find it a bit regrettable that there's so much going on in this country, and the Island Council only meets once a month, every other month I think, and we only have these 2 points of the agenda. I think it speaks volume. A lot is happening in this country. I drive around, I get feedback, I see with my own eyes, and I believe that there's a lot of things. One of the things that we know that is still lagging somewhere is the ordinance pertaining to the low-income houses in Golden Rock, the subsidy, and different promises was made where that is concerned, and it looked like the end of the year will come and it would not come to the Legislative Council. And I'm not showing any shade at anybody, but one of the things that I realized, not just with this government, I have seen it with many other governments, is that the minute Holland asks for information, we break our necks to ensure that we comply with it, and it reaches them because they are the superpower, that we are the milk and honey that we so much need is coming from, I guess, and so we comply. But when the Island Council, from whichever side, I guess, of the islands, asks for information, I think it takes much too long in order for it to reach. I think that this ordinance was very necessary. As a member of the council, the office of the General Secretary would confirm that I was one of those who consistently indicated that we need to have a travel ordinance so that it would be able to regulate the travel of the elected members. I also said to them on several occasions, and her deputy and the legal advisor of the council would confirm that I said the island secretary, not the executive council, has nothing to do with the business of the Island Council. They brought in this dualism, and I think that if we talk about dualism, it should be across the board. I was privileged to serve at a higher level, and I know that the cabinets had absolutely nothing to do with the day-to-day running. Of course, we work together, but when it comes around the day-to-day running of the office, members traveling and whatever needed to be done, then it was handled by the office of the General Secretary and his staff. Because of the colonial format that we're still doing, you are the speaker, the president of this honorable body. And so in that capacity, you would come in, or if there was anything that was touching on the fundamental tenets of the law, then you could ring the bell. And I always welcome that because I believe when it comes around money, that we need to be very transparent. I have said before that if Holland given money, you must be able to detail every penny, every halfpenny, as we say in St. Kitts. You must be able to give accounts. They don't have an issue with me where that is concerned. I believe very much in that. Having said that, Derek is saying, and he's right, that we are also paying taxes. Some are also demanding that we're going to turn up the heat, that we want a detailed breakdown as to how much we are paying on an annual basis where tax is concerned. I don't want anything bundled up with Bonnie and Saber. I ain't born a twin. I born myself by myself. And so I need to know how much our people are paying, how much is being taken from them. Because we hear a lot as to how much they invest in the country, but we are not hearing the amount that they are taking out of the country. And I think that it is very important for us to be able to do so. Whenever a ticket needed to be booked, it was subject to the approval of the island secretary. And of course, I guess once she approved it and it reached your desk and you sign, it is not a business. It doesn't matter to me who they are. It is the responsibility of the office of the General Secretary to regulate these type of things. And I have been saying to them that we should have been further. But there were some people over a period of time who flip-flop. They say one thing now, and when we had to make a decision, then they do something else. But thank God we are in a different situation where we said the staff is street. I think that moving forward, it should be increased. I also believe that security is necessary because we have a lot of vigilantes walking around here and we don't know who they are. A couple of them show me guns, all of them, I told them I have one too. So we need to protect the personnel of the Khalifi and even our personnel that is sitting there. I marvels that we go to government offices and it is so open. Anybody could come in and anybody could do what they want, how they want to open the door and the badge in. I mean, God forbid that they're sitting at the main administration building and the lady secretary is got up for whatever reason. Or maybe some mass men come and say, listen, I want to get members of the executive council. And they are not even in a position to tell you, as to tell the commissioner, lock your door because they come in. And the same thing would happen at the level of the Island Council and other departments of government. So I think we need to look at those things. I always say that governance comes with a price tag. And the government have been giving out the enormous amount of money in recent time. I asked several times to make available figures and how many consultants we have, but for some reason they choose to hide it and not make it available. But I think that our people need to be secured. Their safety is a deep concern for me. Having said that, I think the ordinance in itself is good. I was at the last meeting. I think there was some of the meetings that I was absent from health reasons and other things, even with the rules of order, the changes. But there was the last discussion that we had was pertaining to transportation. Generally, when we go to Europe, we travel together. But there are also moments when members of the council have other appointments. And I'm seeing that they're given $5. I don't know if it's a day, but when you're making the money is available, don't put that on mine, because I think that is an insult and disrespect to the Island Council making $5 available. I also recognize that we as Island Council members, and I don't want them to go there and say that Hein want to travel business class, because I travel business class all the time. I don't drink any alcohol. I don't smoke any cigarette. And I am very careful how I eat, if I eat. So going in the business class doesn't matter to me. But I have a problem that, be it from the Executive Council or the Island Council, that members are subjected sometimes to the inconvenience. The COVID was an issue. I heard it's up again. And I remember I was scared as hell. Sometime back that they had this Dutchman and he was breathing. When I get up, the man right in my face, I said, Lord, I got COVID. And it is because of the small size. I also traveled with you before, where you had to take almost 2 seats. Now, my opinion is that if you are the governor, you're representing people, the Executive Council, the Island Council members, at least I don't think it's too much for members to travel in business class. I see very often that members and commissioners have taken their own money, or the money that they give them to travel, and they upgrade themselves. I don't think that is right. Because civil servant, the lowest civil servant from Holland, the lowest, even the one who carrying the briefcase from the minister, then they come in business class. But when it come around, our people having to be able to make use of that very same privilege, that they make an issue of it. I would support the ordinance that is before the House, but I will study it more in depth. And the things that I just alluded to, I hope I will be able to get my colleagues. I'm not saying this year, but the year is almost finished. Sometime, well, of course, the majority of us are older people now. We are not young anymore. And the inconvenience sometimes, if you get in the front in the economy class, then you're lucky. But if you get the seat, the second will go down. I mean, it's hell. And for 8.5 to 9 hours. And again, I'm saying, if it is the bag boy, the guy that is holding the bag of the minister, or any other civil servant, they bring them in business class, and they give them huge sums to be able to come as daily allowance. It is our money. And like I said before, governance have a price tag. And you know my position, Governor, how I feel about this country. No minister, no parliamentarian in the European part of the Netherlands is better than me. I told a lot of them in the past, I am in a better position because most of you, the people see on the TV screen. But with us, they meet us in the supermarket, they meet us at church, they meet us at the hospital, at funerals, weddings, and you name it, and beyond the campaign, and they are there. We are the highest elected legislative body in this country. And I think the time has come that for both the Island Council as well as the Executive Council, that when we are traveling, that we should seriously reconsider the arrangement that we have at this point in time. It is not good. It's not healthy for people. I saw past Island Council members who have problems with their knee and other issues, but take the money, and I'm not doing it. I'm not going to do it. But I feel very strongly that we need to recognize and understand that these functions have a price tag. Quite recently, when the issue for the, I don't know if it's a Lamborghini or whatever they call it, I don't know if that's what you were getting. But quite recently, when people met me on the road and talk about the car, I said to them, listen, whether you like the individual or not, you have to look at the institution that the individual represents. And I think that whenever people come here, you have to make sure that you have a good deportment. I think representation is very paramount. Very paramount. And so I think moving forward, well, next year, I guess everything's going to be done because the king will be here. Maybe Donald Trump will be here, some former president or a member of his senior member of his cabinet, but people will be here. Prime ministers and ministers, ambassadors, worldwide. And I think that we need to step up, not only for them, but even to let our people know that these are your elected and your appointed officials. So that $5, I'm going to scrutinize it. If you give it to me, I'll bring it back and put it on your desk. I don't need it, because I think it's an insult to the Island Council. You go to Harlem, Governor, you go there very often, and when you see what you have to pay, even for one of these, the cards, snip cards, it's a lot of money, and you have to take it out of the little money that they give you to buy food and do other things. Because you're meeting people, you're meeting station people, you're meeting other people who want to talk with you, and obviously, you can't look like an idiot that every time that they will treat you, and you can't even give them a pint of water. So this document, I will not hold it up, but definitely as the majority leader in this Island Council, I would ask for revision, because I think that the time has come that we need to fall in line with the rest of the world. In general, Madam Speaker, I don't have any issues with it, but I hope that those who are responsible for its execution would not abuse it. Because we have civil servants who want to control Island Council members and the commissioners. I know that because I've been around here long enough, even when we didn't have laws, island ordinance. Yes, we have to be prudent and moderate as to how we spend the taxpayers' money, but I'm warning those who would be chiefly responsible for the implementation and the execution of this piece of legislation, that they take into consideration you're working for and with the Island Council and not the other way around. I don't recall, so I will ask that question. I don't know if the commissioner or the deputy registrar and legal advisor will be able to answer it. I don't recall as to when this piece of legislation will take effect. If it will be effective January 1st, if it will be immediately. But I think that it is good that the public know. I realize that we are not taping. I think we don't tape anymore, I'm not sure. I know it's out there on the Facebook, but after a few days, these things disappear. But I hope that that is something that they would be looking at, because very often we ask for questions and statements are being made, and sometimes whether we forget or the side of the government forget, and then sometimes it's a recipe to create confusion and tension. But I hope that the office of the Khalifated, and in general, I have been satisfied with what they are doing. I feel proud they have been handling themselves. We just brought in a young lady that is responsible for the administration, and I think she's also working and helping to manage the PR. I think that need to be upgraded. They are doing good, but I don't like mediocrity. I like excellence. This is my parliament. The Dutch parliament is not my parliament, Madam Speaker. This is my parliament. This is my country. And because I see it in that context, and I want to start putting it in the minds of our people to think big and think about what the future could hold for us. My parliament, my cabinet, I want them, when they're out there, to be the best of the best. That nobody would be able to say, well, oh, this and that, and the other. I went to St. Martin quite recently as part of the delegation for the St. Martin Day. I also went to Bonaire, and I was marveled when I compare what we did here versus what they do here. Somebody called me and asked me, well, why you all dressed up like stewardesses? I said, because they're going to heaven. That's why they're dressed like stewardesses. But they have done a good job. I told the audience on the day of the award ceremonies that a lot of people was critical when they moved the stage. A number of people came to me and I said, listen, I'm not going to make any statement on I will find out from the head of the fountain why it was. But I think it was a good gesture to put it there. Of course, but I didn't know in the beginning, but then I recognized later that the more provision for those people that is going to Sandbox and other areas of the island where they have business in that area. So that in itself wasn't such a big issue. I was happy. I think that it gave the boots below and about the opportunity where people could move around and be able to purchase whatever they want to do. But more importantly, I think we give the patrons, including me, the opportunity to dance and enjoy ourselves for our National Day. And so again, I want to commend the Commission of Culture for taking the lead together with our people and making this possible. But like I keep saying all the time, I hope that so much is being talked about 2026 that the government is in full gear. I don't make a whole big issue about this salute, because I believe that the American government, and I said it, I will continue to say it, have an obligation to give us some kind of reparation for the bravery that they talk about and the onslaught that we suffered at the hands of that wicked guy Rodney. They need to give us some form of compensation. But I said then, I look more towards the national symbol, the flag, the coat of arms, and the song. But I also acknowledge and recognize the fact that there is a relationship between the United States and the government and people of Station. So, like I said, I will support the peace of arms legislation, and I hope that its implementation would have smooth sailing. But like I said, in the coming year, God spare life, I will definitely call for revision and seek to get the support, especially my faction, because without them, I cannot do anything. I am not depending on the opposition. I'm not even to get me anyway. But I will look towards the majority in the council to ensure that we can make revision where necessary.
Thank you, Councilman Clyde Van Putten. You did go a bit off topic, so we will pay closer attention to that we stick to the topic. Councilman Derek Simmons.
I'll be very short, and just for the record, I think this is important. Having an ordinances is very important in setting policies, and I believe this is a very good step in the right direction. This week we had a meeting with the CFT, and I noted that the letter we received when the budget of the coming year and coming years was sent on to the minister to be approved or disapproved. And it is quite interesting that on the 16th of October, we approved the budget way ahead of normal, how it's done. And they, according to their notes, they received it the 23rd of October, but not until the 11th of the 11th month, they send it on to the minister. And, I find things like this is very, strange, I call it, that we're here trying to regulate the people's business, and then when you look at a simple process, and the thing is, I call it simple because nothing much was changed in the budget. It just pass it on, and when you look at the letter, it don't really have much in it. But it took you 2.5 weeks to scribble something on a paper. And I think that's, unacceptable. And I keep pointing that that it makes our job sometimes very difficult, that we have to be with a magnifying glass, checking these little details out, because if you don't point them out, it will continue. And here they're going to put, mention like the 1st of September. I find that, really out of place. You telling me when, based on your law, you're advised by the 1st of September, the budget should be ready, but it takes you 2.5 weeks to send on a budget. I understand the sentiments of the councilman, what he mentioned, but to me, we need to start somewhere. Yeah. And you cannot just, in the beginning, present a perfect ordinance. You present something and you change it, you pick apart and see where, it is workable. But for me, like, if you have the $5, maybe you go to church and you throw it in the collection plate, People, others can use it, but to me, it's something. And based on the last meeting, the unit manager spoke about the strain on the administration. We try to make things more simpler, especially when it comes to justification of finances. And another note coming out of the meeting from the CFT, they spoke about, how we are doing as an island with our finances. And to me, it's very good, because they use like a color chart: green, orange, and red. Red mean bad, and green mean good. Orange is in between. We had some green, most was orange, but we had no red. And I think that is it's good. But if you yourself don't follow through on processes, do what you have to do, keep waiting, holding back important documents, to me, we are not going anywhere. And I just wanted to use the opportunity to put, those comments on record, because I always bring it up, especially about money. And if we bad spend money, they're ready to cut your head off. But if we are doing a good job in being responsible, you also should be responsible. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Derek Simmons. Councilman Glenville Schmidt.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning to everyone listening. I have nothing more to add on this topic right now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, members of the Island Council. Is there a need for us to go into a second round? I take note you want to go into a second round. Point of order. Councilman Clyde Van Putten.
Madam Speaker, from our side, we would not seek a second round. But when you asked about the announcement, I'm getting old, so I'm liable to forget. A few nights ago, the people of Curacao celebrated a momentous occasion where their football team advanced to the World Cup in 2026 for the first time. I don't know yet if the government of Station would have sent a congratulation to the government and people of Curacao. But if that is not the case, I request that be sent. I think it's important that it be on record that a letter be sent to the Prime Minister with copies. And of course, you have your media, so your media will put it up. Because we are part of the Dutch Caribbean. We are former Netherlands Antilles, many of us. I know for me for sure. I oftentimes see Curacao as my second home. I lived there, I studied there, and I went to school there. And then later on, I went back and I worked in different areas before I served as a member of the parliament. So I think that when they celebrate we should also celebrate. It was a very emotional moment looking at the game. And I think that the government should move expeditiously, and ensure that the necessary protocol and congratulation be done and they'll be published in the media. May it please you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you so much, Councilman Clyde Van Putten. Since there's no need for a second round of deliberations, I will now allow the vote for the ordinance. Councilman Van Putten, what do you say?
Madam Speaker, I would like to propose that it be done by acclamation.
The ordinance regarding before going over to voting by acclamation, it is proposed by Councilman Van Putten. I would like to ask Councilman Derek Simmons, you're in support by acclamation. Councilman Glenville Schmidt. It's a formality that I must go through. Okay, thank you so much. And it is clear the members of the Island Council would like to pass the Island Ordinance Travel and Accommodation Expenses, Island Council, St. Eustatius 2025. The ordinance is herewith passed by acclamation. There are two things that you said, Councilman Van Putten, and I would like to, for public consumption, share, and that is regarding the matter that you spoke about a gun and having one yourself. I think I need to protect you by stating that Councilman Van Putten has a gun license because he is an animal owner. And so the gun that he has is strictly for the purpose of being an animal owner. There are several persons on the island who also carry that gun license. So, Councilman Putten, I remind you, it's for that purpose and no other purpose. I need to say this. Not a point of order. There's no dispute about this. That is the purpose for which you have the gun.
That you clarify that, because maybe it's on social media already.
Exactly.
And saying that he have a gun.
Yes.
But it's for that purpose, and my God.
Yes.
I will never use it for anything else. I'm
Thank
not
you,
a gun
sir.
guy. Thank you.
Yes, because those gun licenses are issued by the office of the island governor, and so I needed to clarify that as such. We will move now swiftly into the rules of order for the meetings and other proceedings of the Island Council St. Eustatius 2025. The ordinance before the Council today concerns the regulation of procedures and conduct during meetings of the Island Council. The current rules of order established in 2020 have served as the foundation for Council operations over the past years. However, through experience and reflection, the Council has identified areas where the ordinance can be improved to enhance clarity, practicality, and efficiency. In response to this need, a revised version of the ordinance has been drafted. This updated proposal was thoroughly reviewed and discussed in a closed-door session of the Central Committee. Following that internal deliberation and consultation, the ordinance has now been formally submitted to the Island Council for final consideration and approval. While this ordinance is primarily procedural and internal in nature, it nonetheless becomes a public document. Therefore, in accordance with principles of transparency and good governance, this is before the Council today. Members of the Island Council, is this a document you would like to deliberate or you would like to carry by acclamation. I see Councilman Van Putten gave a nod that he would like to deliberate. What do you say, Councilman Derek Simmons? Yes? Okay. Councilman Glenville Smith? No objection. So herewith, the ordinance before us, rules of order for the meetings and other proceedings of the Island Council, St. Eustatius 2025, it goes into deliberation. Councilman Clyde Van Putten, you may take the floor.
Madam Speaker and members of this honorable House, I must start off, but I will be very brief, in commending the Secretariat of the Island Council. I also think that I should give some credit to Mrs. Neela Lynch-Adan, as I think that back then she also assisted us. I know there was other external forces who had other ideas where the rules of order of the Island Council is concerned. And I remember sitting on that side of the table in this very building, and I saw the General Secretary that you all call the Khalifiya and the Deputy Legal Advisor. We grilled them, and they rose to the occasion. Neela sat in many circumstances, and she allowed them to, to put the expertise to work. And where it was necessary, Dr. Down gave the necessary guidance and clarification on certain things and how it could work one way or the other. So it says to me that we have people here in this country who is of good faith. I said a few days ago that there are also those who seek to cooperate with others to change our customs and values and impose their own agenda. And so I'm very happy that we read this. I remember when I came into the council so many years ago, Speaker, we didn't have rules of order. We didn't have speaker on time. And I was the sole member of the opposition. And I remember a former colleague on the day when I was taking the oath of office said that they feel for me. And you don't beat him up, because the demos had 4 and the PLB had 1. And I didn't borrow the term from Douglas, my comrade and friend, the foreign minister, and St. Kitts' former prime minister, who said he was 10 man in 1. I didn't borrow that phrase. But one thing I said on the floor, you need not be worried about me, because I can take care of myself, I can handle myself. I studied in the field, but also natural gifts and talents, and I know when to support the government from the other column, and I know when to bring them to task. And during that period, I engage them. I call them very often to the Island Council, very often. And we had spirited debates. And the then governor, who was the first local, I don't want to call his name, whenever he come and he meet me there, he said, you're up to something. And so I think after a period, I think that there was a point in time that I spoke about 13 hours in the Island Council. I think it was during a budget debate. And there were other times that I spoke close to that, because I believe it is necessary that the public must know what their government up to. And so subsequently we came to the agreement that there would be speaking time, which I didn't object to. I know we had a lot of discussions where there were some members wanted to do like what Holland is doing, where the faction leader, or if you have your party spokesperson on the particular topic, that they would, do the majority of the speaking. And I don't necessarily agree with that. I keep saying I'm not Holland. We are part of the constitutional agreement, at least for now, but I'm not Holland. I'm a Caribbean man. I'm stationed. This is my country. I just told a very close ally of mine, who's a member of the Upper House of Parliament in Holland, that Holland is your country and Statia is mine. And I mean that very, very sincerely. I'm not joking about it. But I agree that for efficiency, and even though it's a time constraint, sometimes it's necessary that we need to adapt and make changes. I see still in looking at the document, last night and I fell asleep reading it again, I see that there are still certainly Dutch elements that seep into it. But I'll work around that. I don't have a problem with that. I want to commend the General Secretary and our assistant and Dr. Darren and all others, because I think the Island Council members was also present and members of the Executive Council. I think it was a day or two that we met here in this very same building. And we went through this. I think, like you mentioned, Madam Speaker, that the one that we had dated back to 2020, so that's 5 years ago. And so adaptation was necessary. I believe in everything that changes must come at a certain point. In general, I don't have any objection to it. As again, I say, I see certain of the European approach is still in it, but again, you can't take it from them. Some of us are more European than the Europeans have. But it is what it is. And I want to commend them. And I want to say that when it comes for voting, that I will support it. I think the public must know that this is the Bible, the political Bible, the rules and regulation that governs the procedures of the Island Council. And I think that in any country, a state, that we need this type of legislation in order to guide and have an orderly process and actually reaching to certain agreement. So, Madam Speaker, when it comes to voting, it will have my approval. May it please you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilman Clyde. Thank you, Councilman Clyde Van Putten. Councilman Derek Simmons, you may now address the Island Council.
Thank you again. And I must say it again, I believe we're heading in the right direction. And I don't think that the ordinances that we're passing today will be sent up for annulment. And, it's, when you look at, those kind of processes, it's, to me, I sometimes have to laugh because when you understand the process, then you can influence it. And sometimes people don't understand what that is until their head is on the chopping block. But it is good, and it shows that, we as a country are maturing, and that we see certain things are very important. We need to put order on how we do things, and it portrays maturity. And even though, I understand the sentiments of the councilman, especially with speaking time, and I have seen where speakers have speak for days. And, I just found it amazing because then, I just would say they know the process and they know the rules because they know they can do it. But sometimes, time, someone always said, time is longer than twice. But time is also precious. And although I would most of the time I don't have much to say because sometimes I feel that sometimes we're wasting time, but it's important to hear people. Even though, you might not be interested in what they have to say, we have to give people the room to speak. And I don't think often that is allowed. And, I will leave it at that.
Thank you, Councilman Derek Simmons. Councilman Glenville Schmidt, you may address the Island Council.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Before I comment on the rules of order, I too want to extend my congratulations to the government and people of Curacao on achieving the goal of reaching the World Cup. I too lived in Curacao, and I enjoy being in Curacao every time I go there. And we know they embarked on this mission a few years back, and were able to hire in the very experienced Dutch, call him coach, Mr. Dick Advocaat, and he came in with this particular mission on his mind, to get Curacao to the World Cup. Yeah, and so I am very happy and pleased that they have achieved that. And if you see the reactions from the Curacao people, you know they are also experiencing it as a very exceptional achievement. And I hope that next year, when they do reach on the playing fields of the World Cup in the North America, that they will also have some successes there. So I wish them all the best of luck. And I saw this morning already news reports, I hope it's real, that Curacao will cash in $10 million just for reaching the World Cup from the FIFA. So I'm really happy for the people of Curacao. Country has gone through a lot. They're still going through a lot, also on the social levels. So I hope this is a good up pepper for them. On the issue of the rules of order, I don't really have a comment on the in-out of it. I also recommend our Griffier office, our secretariat, for the work that they put in, and also Neil Darduin. Of course, we started the revision under her supervision. My only comment is we handle both these ordinances in a closed door session, and then they are now coming on the floor of the Island Council. I don't know what the rules of, same rules of order, existing rules of order says about that. But I think that these things should still come in a central committee meeting before they come in the Island Council. We need to give the public knowledge of these things in extensively, so that they can also give feedback before these things come on the floor of the Island Council. So I would request the chair and the Griffier office to look into this. If there's nothing barring that process, that these things still come in a public meeting of the Central Committee before they come for final approval. Because we can bring them here in the Island Council. If no one has comment, we can approve them as a hammer stick, and then the public still doesn't know what we are approving. Yeah, and they have no knowledge and can give no feedback. So that's my only comment on both these ordinances that we are approving today, the travel ordinance and the rules of order. Thank you.
Thank you, members of the Island Council. I look to you on how you would like to proceed on this ordinance. Do we want to vote individually or by acclamation? Or is there a need for a second round? That I need to ask also. Point of clarification?
Try to give a brief little elucidation so that the public will understand what the ordinance is all about. So I think that he would need to indicate what he wants. If he wants to refer it back, or are we going to approve it? But never, never again that this should happen. And then additionally, we make sure that that information campaign comes out of the office of the General Secretary via their communication bureau, and update the public as to what this ordinance is all about. So there are two choices if you want. And he said that let's send it back, I will support it. If we want to approve it, and then we said, okay, it should never happen again. And then we expect that the Secretariat go on an information campaign right away. Then those are the two choices. So I will hear from him what his pleasure is, or preference is.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilman Clyde Van Putten. What is the position of the Island Council at this stage? Councilman Glenville Schmidt.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, we already approved one of them, without discussion and debate or referring back. So I don't see the need for referring it back to the Central Committee right now, but I would agree that information goes out to the public, that at least some information is put out there, because I won't want to delay the process of getting these things in place. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Will we go over to voting per acclamation?
Yes, Madam Speaker, I suggest that we do the acclamation.
Councilman Derek Simmons. Councilman Glenville Schmidt. This ordinance, rules of order for the meetings and other proceedings of the Island Council, St. Eustatius 2025, is herewith unanimously carried by acclamation. I just would like to make a suggestion. I think you are quite right, Councilman Glenville Schmidt and Councilman Clyde Van Putten, regarding the procedure for the ordinances, but I want to also say that maybe in the future there can be a more stronger indication, because the Registrar's Office was of the opinion that it was done in a closed session, but they will pay close attention before ever having anything reach here in the way this has happened. Yes?
When will this take effect? January next year? Immediately?
Immediate effect?
Yeah, but like I said before, I believe that, like you said, there was a lot of discussions. I attended some and not some. So I think maybe they went out from the standpoint that, but again, the public need to know it affects them. They need to know the decision that their representative takes. So even though we will let it go now, I think still that the Office of the Cliff here must begin forthwith to give information via their communication bureau to make sure that the public know exactly what the two pieces of legislation is all about. Everybody don't go on the social media, but there's different ways and means that you would get the information. So you use whatever is out there, whatever is possible, so that the general public, and even doing this in the diaspora, there's a lot of people overseas, locals as well as non-nationals, who follow the proceedings of the Island Council. So I think it's important for their consumption as well.
So I just want to assure you that this has the attention of the Registrar's Office. We can all see that the communication is being beefed up, and I do concur that I follow the page from time to time, and the Registrar's Office is indeed doing an excellent job in bringing information to Eustatius public via their website. We have reached at agenda point 8, announcements of the Executive Council and the Island Governor. Commissioner Leerdam, you may make announcements, after which then I will make a few announcements.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good morning to everyone. I would like to announce that the Special Olympics team left yesterday morning for games that will be taking place on Saturday and Sunday and ending on Sunday, and will be back home, and they are in Curacao. So asking the public to cheer them on from afar, send words of encouragement, and we look forward to the success. And I too would like to join in congratulating Curacao for their milestone as Commissioner of Sport, and especially if that $10 million prize is a reality, I would like to congratulate them also on that. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Resheline Leerdam. I've received apology on behalf of Council Lady Raquel Spana-Carty, who is currently off island. And I take note of the information shared by you, Councilman Clyde Van Putten, regarding the removal of the council meetings from social media. And the registrar office has assured me that they are doing everything possible to ensure that these are secured permanently by downloading them timely. So do know that that is happening. I want to, for public awareness, I've done this to all the individuals concerned, but today I want to, for public consumption, congratulate the Commissioner of Culture for an exquisite Statia Day celebration and the preparations that led to the outcome that we have received. I also want to thank the team, because we've had a lot of new people on the team. But at every way, I do know they were faced with challenges, but I want to congratulate them for the excellence that was displayed. And I too agree with Councilman Van Putten that whatever we do, we must have a seal and a brand of excellence attached to it. And just for public awareness, it is true that as island governor, I have the right to travel business class, but I also like to share that I'm also very cognizant of what it can cost at times. So while the regulation allows me to travel business class, I always still ask what is the price, because if it's exorbitant, then I would downgrade in the interest of proper spending of the monies, limited resources that we already have. On that note, I would like to bring this meeting to conclusion. And so today we have come to the end of our meeting of the Island Council. I believe we've had very fruitful discussion, and I invite us all to pay our respect to the local anthem by standing as we bring our meeting for today to a close. Let us rise. This meeting is herewith officially closed.